Afternoon, Kieran. How are you today?
Afternoon, Peter. All good. Thank you very much.
Good stuff. Well, Kieran, welcome to the Business Spotlight. Thanks very much for taking the time to speak with me today. Could you tell me a little about yourself, your background, and your business, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, listen, I have the great pleasure of being managing director here at Morrow Communications. We're what we call an integrated communications consultancy, which effectively means that we help clients of all shapes and sizes across a wide range of sectors here on the island of Ireland and increasingly across the UK to communicate with their audiences. It's not much more complicated than that. And those audiences can be internal audiences as well as external. And obviously, once you go into external, there's quite a range of what those might be. But typically, we started life more communications about 40 years ago. Funny enough, we're nearing our 40th anniversary next year. I probably started in the sort of media relations and public relations sphere in particular, and that obviously remains a core strength of ours. But we've been developing that sort of integrated offering to our clients increasingly by adding more and more services and specialisms. So today we're able to offer creative services to a lot of our clients. So that's design, graphic design, video production, digital services, obviously, of course, a big part of our business, alongside an event management specialism. So what it means now is that the core of our business remains communication strategy. That's probably what we see ourselves as first and foremost, communication strategists. But now we're able to not only deliver the strategy, but then implement the strategy with an increasingly wide range of tools at our disposal. And essentially, the sweet spot for us is when clients use a number of those services together, they get better bang for their buck and more impact. And it's probably where we get the greatest buzz from those clients that are doing that. So as I say, I've been with the company about 25 years now. Funny enough, 25 years this month. Something came up on LinkedIn last night to remind me it's my 25th anniversary here. And obviously there's been a lot of
Had
change.
LinkedIn been invented? Was LinkedIn invented 25 years ago?
No,
I don't know.
LinkedIn didn't exist, but obviously somehow it has a record of when I first joined Morgan Communications. So that seems to have worked. So I initially started my career in Dublin, having done a course at Ulster University, Communications, Advertising and Marketing course. But I started my career in Dublin in an international agency, and then from there spent about 5 years in Dublin, and then came back up to Belfast to take over their smaller satellite office as it was then. And I was there for about a year, and then moved over towards Morgan Communications at that point. But yeah, it's hard to believe it's 25 years ago.
And was this what you envisaged doing when you were a little boy? Is this what you dreamed of growing up to be?
Uh, I probably didn't know this career existed when I was a little boy, but probably the one thing I can point to is that I always had an interest in sort of media and current affairs, and looking back, I probably put that down to my father. He was not, and he wasn't an academic man by any stretch, but he was always interested in news. So our house was newspapers were always there. The Irish News, Belfast Telegraph in particular. Radio Ulster was always on. Um, TV news was rarely missed. So I suppose I just grew up in that space and just had an active interest. I even remember back my father would have been renowned for going to bed listening to the BBC World Service low in the background, while he was sleeping. And of course, much to my mother's dismay, but it just was something that sort of pervaded around our house, was that sort of news agenda and current affairs. So I suppose it was maybe in my DNA a little bit from that. But I studied went to the school in Armagh from the end of the A levels, went to university, saw this particular course, and I said it was the first year, but we were the guinea pigs for the communications, advertising, and marketing course. And from there, I just developed a love and a passion for it. I suppose being able to apply that interest in media and current affairs in a meaningful and impactful way. And I suppose my first entry from there was into agency life, which I really got a sort of bug for. So I've been doing that ever since.
And help me understand your target market. Who do you work best with?
Oh, well, that's the nature, I suppose, of a consultancy environment is we tend to work with a lot of different sectors. There isn't one target market. So we would be, by nature, very active across certainly the main three sectors. So the public sector, we're very strong in the private sector, and even in the voluntary and third sector. So that's the starting point. But I suppose we deliberately have developed specialisms and depth across a number of key sectors. So, for example, in the agri-food sector, it probably is that had the starting point with the founder of Morrow Communications, a man called Kieran Morrow, who comes from an agricultural background. So he had a lot of interest and contact and knowledge in that sector. So not surprising, we have a very deep and well understood agri-food specialism. But we're also strong in a number of others. So ICT, finance and business services, retail, brands, hospitality, increasingly life sciences. Probably the one that's certainly I'm spending a lot more of my time in, and I see a lot of opportunity in, is in the whole environmental space. That's a real growth area for us. So over the last 5 to 10 years in particular, we have been involved in that whole energy transition space. Where by nature things have to change. There's a lot of communications challenges in that to behavioral change issues, I suppose, that we need as a society and as an economy to move away from fossil fuels to obviously renewables. So we have had a lot of growth and specialism in that area, and involved in quite a few interesting projects at the moment, whether it's in geothermal technology, hydrogen, all of the new buzzwords that are out there. We have sort of been closely involved in, and it's a really exciting space to be involved in because of the scale of the challenge, I suppose.
What would you say, Kieran, has been your biggest lesson since becoming MD of Morrow Communications?
I think probably the biggest lesson is to make sure you never forget learning lessons. Because I think the day that you feel you know everything or whatever is the day to retire, because the world, let's face it, I don't think the world's been moving at a faster pace. You have to keep up with it. You have to be always willing to learn. So that's probably the most important lesson I think to learn. Outside of that, I mean, I'm a great believer in surrounding yourself with very good people, and more importantly, empowering and equipping them to do their job, and try and stay out of their way. Don't be micromanaging. You have very good people for a reason. Give them support and encouragement, and let them at it. So certainly a great believer in that. And alongside that, I suppose, as a consultancy and a team-based environment, that's where I get a lot of the buzz from. And I suppose that the strength of the collective, the real team effort that needs to go into doing it. And certainly it's something we believe in strongly here at Morrow, is that it really goes to the core of our success, is that we've got each other's back, and we're supporting each other along the way.
And if you think of again, reflecting on the journey, well, what have you learned about yourself along the way, Kieran?
I suppose a number of things. The one thing about this environment, I suppose the consultants environment generally, but certainly in comms, is quite a pressurized environment. So you need to be resilient. You need to be adaptable. You need to just be able to cope under pressure, because you're typically juggling a lot of things. The other thing, again, by nature of that fast-paced change, you need to be a very fast learner. And thankfully, I seem to have been able to develop that skill over time, where at times, even while we have a lot of depth in key sectors and that knowledge base builds up, sometimes, we can apply our skills to a brand new sector. So you find yourself on very steep learning curves at times, and you need to learn quickly. So I've thankfully been able to develop that, I believe, at least over recent years, to learn quickly, but equally always remain flexible and adaptable.
And who's influenced you along the way? Can you think of any person or people that have influenced you along your journey?
Well, I suppose, I mean, I mentioned my father earlier. Certainly, I think he, maybe planted that seed of interest in news and current affairs. And of course, my mother, undoubtedly, she brought something to the party too. I don't think you can avoid your parental influence, but she was a very sort of resilient woman, very patient, and just had a lot of common decency about her. And I'd like to think those are some of the traits that I've taken from her with me. But outside of that, I've just had the real luck in many ways to work with some great colleagues. Certainly, a number of them here, long-standing people who have been with me in that journey for, if not all 25 years, it's a significant proportion of it. And I have huge respect for certainly my fellow directors and a lot of the other long-timers, as we call them in here. But equally clients over that 25 years. There's some clients that I've been working with over 20, certainly 20 plus years with those. And I mean, you learn a lot from them. You learn a lot from the trust that they put on us to support their business year after year after year, to do it. And you really, again, have each other's back in relation to that. Even some of our suppliers, again, long-standing supply relationships, that we learn from them, they learn from us. And we really have a sort of strong collaborative partnership type environment. And so all of those, I think, come together to be the sort of, I believe, the positive influences in my career.
And what gets you out of bed in the morning and drives your passion for your business?
Well, the one thing I can certainly say, and we cover this a lot in interviews with people as to what sets them apart in this industry. And for me, it's the variety. The one thing that this job gives you is a hell of a lot of variety. So no day is the same. By nature of the range of sectors that we're dealing with, the subject matter we're dealing with, and obviously then the personalities and across all of those, you're wearing many different hats at many different times. So every day is very, very different. And that's what keeps me interested and engaged. There's not a boring week. There's always something different coming at you every day, and that certainly keeps me engaged. The team-based environment, I think, is the other thing. I just love that. I love getting working together, having each other's back, and getting the best out of people as well. I love to see young people thrive and learn and develop and just be the best they can be. And I really get enjoyment out of that. But I suppose probably the one thing that stands out most is, which I get greater pleasure from and enjoyment from as a career, is that I believe comms and the impact of comms is much more visible. People see the value and strategic importance of comms, whereas before it might have been a nice to do, it's very much a must do. And by nature, therefore, people like us, whether you're in-house or in the agency environment like us, are at the top table because people now see the fundamental importance of good communications to their business and to, organizational change or some of the bigger challenges like tackling climate change. They understand that to do any of that, you need good strategic communications to be able to do it. So therefore, the work that we do feels much more valuable and important. And if you're good at it, you should excel at it as well. So that's plenty to get you out of bed in the morning in my mind.
Yeah. And if in the unlikely event you were stranded on a desert island, and then became even more unlikely that you could pick a book or podcast or both to listen to or read, what would you choose?
There's a charger in this desert island, I assume. So, well, yeah. Podcasts I've got into relatively recently, but I suppose some of them are perfectly timed for my journey home. So there's one in particular. I'm a great sports fan and coming from Armagh and a big GAA fan in particular. There's one that the BBC does called GAA Social, and it has won lots of awards. And while ostensibly it's about Gaelic games, it's so much more than that. They cover lots of stories that are sort of almost incidentally about Gaelic games. But they're stories, human interest stories about triumph and tragedy on and off the pitch. And Thomas Niblock and Oisin McConville himself, a former Armagh player, they've just found a perfect combination of telling interesting stories, but getting the best out of people in terms of learning. It's rarely that I come away from listening to one of their podcasts that you really feel inspired by the people that they've been talking to, and they have just developed a huge knack of getting people to open up and tell sometimes quite heart-wrenching and difficult stories, and I say much more beyond sport, even never mind Gaelic games, specifically life lessons for people about resilience and coping with the challenges that come at you. So I would definitely recommend it to anyone who hasn't listened to it. Even if you're not a GAA fan, you'll certainly take something away from it just by the nature of how they do it.
Great share. And what would you say, Kieran, is the biggest challenge that you're currently facing in your business?
Oh, probably I would probably say talent. The whole issue of talent, and it's definitely one we share with our clients right now. I would say there's not a client or a sector that we're not actually, ironically, helping them do comms to position themselves as an employer of choice. There is a consistent thing out there that everybody sees. The labour market is tight right now, and people are struggling to get good people and retain good people. So, so in one way, it's an opportunity for us because people are recognizing the importance of comms in it, but we as a company are in that same market. You know, we are finding it harder and harder to get good talent and then equally keep them when they're here. So we're certainly spending a lot more time and effort as an employer to make this place as an attractive proposition as it can be, give people opportunity, give them support, look after their well-being, all of those things. And it's hard for a company of our size. We're only about 35 people about now, but we know the value of it. We are ultimately a people business. That's what we sell. We sell our expertise and our time. But that's people's time ultimately. So we know the value of people. But yeah, it's definitely but I say it's a double-edged sword for us because it has presented opportunities from comms expertise to support our clients on one hand, but equally we need to look after our own interests as well when it comes to that.
And if you could invite any three people, alive or dead, to a dinner party, who would you invite?
I love this question. I can't almost believe I'm going to say this myself, but I would probably, just out of intrigue and interest, have Donald Trump there right now.
He crops up a few times with these.
I can't believe I'm saying it because certainly his politics and his approach to things is as far as you can get from my own. But maybe it's because at times there's a value in putting yourself in an uncomfortable position to learn things, to make sense of what it is. And certainly I think he's an enigma to many people in terms of the attraction to it. But ultimately he won that election very handsomely. Somehow he's managed to convince more Americans that his approach is better than certainly the Democrats. So I've been interested just to make my own opinion of the man and spend some time in his company and that sort of environment to see, does he live up to the persona that we get served over here, and equally to understand better as to what the next 4 years might look like. So yeah, I think that would be an interesting one. I think you need then someone probably a bit off the wall to help me challenge someone like that, because again, I think the debate would be quite interesting. So I've always found what's her name, Miriam Margolyes as an interesting character, and I can only imagine her and Trump in the same room might be an interesting combination. She's just one of these people that just says what she thinks and has some really interesting life experiences. So I would suspect that would make an interesting fireworks. And just that unpredictability that Miriam might bring to the party. And certainly she's one of these people I think is a really great raconteur, just as great storyteller. So I think it would be very amusing. Probably I mentioned my love for GA and Armagh. I would probably, given the year that we've had, probably invite Kieran McGeeney. You may not know who he is, but he's the recently All-Ireland winning manager for the Armagh team. He was also so we won the All-Ireland for the second time this year, which is believe me, a major deal in Armagh GA circles. He happened to be our captain when we won it last, so he's now one of the few people on the island of Ireland who is both an All-Ireland winning captain and manager for the team. But as an illustration of leadership, I think he's been a very inspiring character. He has built a team, and that sort of team ethos I was talking about earlier, that the power of the collective. Armagh doesn't have a long pedigree of underage success. We don't have, resources compared to other counties and number of players available to us, but he's managed over the sort of a long-term project, been able to build an All-Ireland winning team. And he's had his detractors, but he's remained focused on the prize and brought his team with him. At times, people calling for his head because they weren't getting results, but the team, which says a lot to me about any player, whatever criticism fancy from the outside, the team and the squad stayed with him the whole way, and lo and behold, they delivered the results when it mattered most. So in today's world, I think there's a great lesson. And so I personally would get something from it, but equally I can't help but always be thinking I would love to pick up some tips along the way. What might I learn from Kieran McGeeney and his leadership management style.
Yeah, that sounds like a good night. Those
Yeah.
those three, that would be an entertaining evening.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's doing the cooking, but that sounds like good fun.
That'd be a takeaway. You wouldn't want to leave the table, I don't think.
Yeah.
And if you could go back in time and give some advice to your 18-year-old self, what would that be?
Ooh, interesting question. I mean, I'm not really a person that spends a lot of time looking backwards. I have to say, I don't really have, oh, I wish moments, or if I'd only done that. I just don't typically do that. I'm usually more living in the present, or looking to over the horizon. I'm not really a looking back sort of person. So I can't really think about it. I suppose in view of what I've just maybe told you, if I'd known back in what year, 1990, I was 18 in 1990. If I'd known then that Armagh would win two All Irelands, I would probably advise myself to put a big bet on, because I'm sure I would have got very good odds back then to say that by 2024 Armagh would have won two All Irelands. Not too many people would have believed me.
Well, feeling that, or you could have bought some Apple shares.
Or bought some Apple shares. Yeah, absolutely.
And so Morrow Communications coming up to 40th birthday was a tremendous achievement. Tell me, let's fast forward another 5 years. What does Morrow Communications look like, and heading towards the end of 2029 into 2030?
Yeah, well, certainly, yeah, it's great to reach that point, but it's where you would be at risk of looking back and patting yourself in the back and thinking, "Oh, wasn't the last 40 years wonderful?" Now, obviously, I was there for a significant proportion of it, but if anything, we're going to be using it to help us as a launch pad for the next, 30, 40 years, because we do have ambitious growth plans in place as a team, where certainly in 5 years' time, we expect to be bigger, but it's not just about bigger for us. We want to be better by then. That's far more important to us, whatever. But our ambition to grow. If you're going to get better, you should be able to attract more clients. You should be able to attract more staff. So the focus for us is on being better at what we do. But we definitely see lots of big opportunities for growth. More of that sectoral sort of approach, that depth that I talked about, and in areas like the challenge of climate change, but the wider societal challenges that we're facing. For us, our view of the world is, again, comms have to be a key part of that. To change how we live, work, play, even how we move away from fossil fuels. If we're going to have a planet for future generations, one of the key aspects is comms to bring that necessary behavioral change that's going to either it'll succeed or fail. And one of the reasons it succeed or fail is if it hasn't been communicated properly with people, because we need to take people with us on that journey, whether it's companies or members of the public, along with it to affect that change. So we see a lot of opportunity for people like us to help people sort of chart a way through all of that, hopefully in a short space of time that we can start the impact. And as I say, we're already involved in a number of significant projects in that space, so we can see and understand the challenges ahead. But you could argue the same thing in healthcare, aging population. We're going to be relying on the health service. It's not in great shape at the moment, where things are probably going to have to change in terms of how we're delivering those services. By nature, then, how we communicate those changes is going to be key. So it's in that sort of more strategic space. We probably see lots of scope and opportunity for people like us. But equally, every brand, every organization is going to have to has a sustainability agenda, for example, or are going to have to adapt to the new world order. And again, from our perspective, if we continue to be the best in what we can be, we should be able to offer value to our clients, to help them understand that world and to communicate their part of it. And that's why I say we certainly see opportunity for us to grow over the next 5 years. If that makes sense.
And if somebody likes, oh yeah, absolutely, and like it's fascinating. I could chat for hours around communication. It's a particular subject that fascinates me as well. And if someone likes what they've heard, Kieran, and would like to reach out to Morrow Communications or to yourself, indeed, what would be the best way for them to go about that?
Well, that's good. I mean, obviously, we're on all the social media channels, but you can certainly find out more about us on our website, morrowcommunications.com. You'll find out more there, but feel free certainly to follow me on LinkedIn or on any of the good social media channels.
Right. Well, Kieran Donnelly from Morrow Communications, thanks very much for taking the time to speak with me today. Congratulations on your 25-year tenure, and best of luck for the 40th birthday next year. And I wish you all the success for what remains, what we've got left in 2024 and beyond. So, Kieran, thanks very much indeed.
Very much appreciated. Thanks very much. Enjoyed the conversation.